All right, let's look at labor and healthcare, and as part of our building a better world, how to make healthcare cheaper on the labor side. Anytime you have scarcity in economics, you're going to see higher cost. There's only so much resources, there's only so much of anything, and so if something becomes rare, it becomes more valuable generally. Well, let's look at the future involving certain medical professions from the BLS. Now this is the 10-year growth rate. And it makes sense because the baby boom generation is retiring, and they're going to be retiring, and there's a possibility that they may live 30 or 40 years. There's also a possibility, from an economic standpoint, that if the standard of living drops, if things get difficult, that they won't live quite as long, and the next generation won't live quite as long, so these numbers might be inaccurate. Okay? Whether you watch the documentary Sicko, whether you watch anything covering the medical profession, if they don't look at labor and the labor shortage, and they don't address the labor shortage, you've got a problem. Okay? Bottom line is scarcity leads to higher cost. And if you look at these, especially the bottom two, couldn't really find, and by the way, I looked at a lot of different professions in the medical field, and I couldn't find a lot of them that weren't going to grow, which is even bigger problems, right? It would be, I mean, if I saw 5% on, let's say, physician, that wouldn't be that bad. That would mean that our costs are not going to be that much higher. I predict that in the next 10 years, more than likely, a high deductible plan that is currently $6,000 will be $15,000. Or I should say in the range of, let me just say, in the range of $10,000 to $15,000. About 7 years ago, I was paying for a high deductible plan that I believe was only $800 deductible. And I think I paid $15 a month to have that plan. And it was an $800 deductible. So we're now at, what, $6,000? Think about that growth. You talk about inflation. All right, what about AI and robots? I mean, could they come in and do some of these jobs? Well, they might be able to assist with specific problems and potentially replace some professions. There are a couple of problems with that. The first one that I didn't include on the slide, but it's actually the bureaucracy in the medical profession. So unlike the tech profession, there's a lot of bureaucracy in the medical profession. You're probably not going to be able to sell a solution. I actually have a couple of solutions, tech solutions for healthcare, and I looked at, let's say, the patent regulations, the selling regulations, the potential lawsuits that I could face if, let's say, one of the robots did something wrong. And the fact is that it's not worth it. Okay, I would have to probably make $1 billion, and even if I made $1 billion, I could potentially face lawsuits in $5 billion. For instance, let me put it this way, with medical solutions, for every dollar you make, you could face a potential of $6 to $7 in lawsuit. Okay, so that's just not worth it. Okay, the other thing too as well is that most tech investors, and it makes sense, they like things like Snapchat, the latest Maps application. You know, Snapchat wants $20 billion now from investors. I mean, these are not solutions to problems, but look at how people are going crazy over them. Okay, well, the investors should be spending their money basically on shutting down the bureaucracy. That's money well spent. This is not money well spent. But the fact is that if you could potentially face lawsuits like you can by developing medical solution, you're not going to get more of it. Okay, that's also one of the reasons why it takes you so long to get certain medicine. We always complain about, well, medicine costs so much. Why can't we get, let's say, why can't we get a cheaper, let's say, cheaper pills or cheaper, shots or cheaper this? Well, the reason is because some of the costs that we're paying for is potentially for lawsuits, right? So, not going to happen. There's some other major red flags. There's a really great article in the New York Times by Dr. Karen Zibbert. I'll link to the article. It's very interesting, and I'll have another video featuring Cheryl Atkinson and how the media control your perception. She did a talk at TEDx. This is a great article by Dr. Zibbert. However, people in the media were able to demonize her and call it controversial, weird, even though what she's really addressing is one of the problems that we're seeing in the medical profession, which is a lot of the modern doctors. We have now a physician workforce has expanded by 62%, the part-time physician workforce by 62%. Problem is part-time doctors are, if you read the article, she goes on to explain the cost that we pay as taxpayers. It's not just the $400,000 or $300,000 they're paying for medical school. We end up paying, we subsidize them as well with our taxes. And if they go off and they become part-time doctors, that's less doctors. Too much demand, low supply of doctors, right? So what we should be doing, and one of the things that she would advocate, I would say, I'm not saying that she would advocate this, but it seems to imply that she would advocate, let's say, discouraging part-time doctors through the removal of taxpayer subsidies. As Dr. Sibbert points out, we all pay for every doctor, so let's pay for only the doctors who commit to working full-time. Look, we do it with student loan forgiveness. We forgive student loans after a certain period of time. There are certain qualifications people must meet, criteria people must meet. There's no reason why we can't do this. Right? Bottom line is, if you haven't worked for, let's say, 15 or 20 years as a full-time doctor, then you have to pay back $1 million, because that's what this taxpayer had to subsidize. That's just a hypothetical example, right? We also can see examples of children like Jack and Draka. This is this individual here. Developed an early detection to pancreatic cancer. Obviously, they have interest in medicine. There are some kids who do. There's kids who want to be doctors. So why are they sitting around taking another 5th year of U.S. history when they could be learning medicine? Now, this is an example of how our low expectations is more of a cultural problem than so much of an education problem, but our low expectations of kids, well, it's just too complicated for them to learn. Why? I mean, like, there are other countries that have had much higher expectations on their kids, and they rise to those expectations. And clearly, the fact that he did it means other kids can do it if they want it, right? I mean, if they really have interest in medicine, they don't need to be taking classes like U.S. history anymore. By the way, I don't care whether my doctors know much about history or not, as far as U.S. history, right? They can choose to know that, that's great, but that doesn't make them good doctors. Elon Musk is not a brilliant engineer because he knows a lot about U.S. history. Like Warren Buffett. So the whole idea that you got to be a well-balanced individual, that's going to die before it's over with, because you really don't. Mastery means you kind of know one or two things or a few things and you're good at those areas. That's the kind of people I want to work with. Not these well-balanced people who know everything but can't do very much in any of those areas. What do they call them? A Renaissance man or woman? I can't think of it. There's a term like good at everything but not a master in anything. And that's not a person I want to be a doctor. Anyway. Also, finally, and this is a big one, from a labor perspective, if it's easy to sue a doctor, we'll have fewer doctors. I actually thought about medical school when I was going to college, and the two things that deterred me was, first of all, the cost. $300,000, and I was from a lower middle class family, and that's just way too big of a price tag. Not going to do that. And then the other one was, all it takes is one lawsuit, and that's it. You could pretty much be shut down. Same thing with, I do a lot of math. I love numbers. I love math. I would develop a lot of solutions for healthcare that they could use. Problem is if I can face $5 lawsuit for every dollar of a solution, not doing it. So I'll just let you pay higher cost, and I'll figure out ways to offset it through other ways. But the fact is that if voters continue to make it more difficult, and again, voters can do something about this, right? They can do something about children. This is education. They can do something about this in terms of suing. Medical malpractice suits should rarely happen. I mean, it should be 1 out of, let's say, 10 million. I'll close with this since we're talking about medical malpractice at the end. I've had several friends, I've attended funerals of several friends who died of taking penicillin or other antibiotics. They were allergic to them. They took it, went home, didn't know they were allergic, and died. Okay? Now, antibiotics kill. They can. They don't, but I mean, they can kill if you're allergic. If you have an allergy to penicillin, you're dead. The end. Or unless you catch it. That does not mean penicillin is bad. If you look at what penicillin has done for humans, it has been amazing. But you never know. With genetics, there's so much genetic variation even among humans, it's impossible to know ahead of time, at least for now. Now, we could break it down and look at it mathematically and know these things ahead of time, but of course, if you make it more expensive, you're not going to get those solutions, right? So the reality is, people die, people have problems, and in the long run, we're all dead, so that's not a doctor's fault. And making it more difficult for doctors is going to make it, you're going to make a future where there's fewer and fewer doctors, which is only going to make it harder for everyone. Most of them are doing as good of a job as possible. And they don't know everything. I've had many doctors tell me, we don't know. And I know you think that we will know everything, but we don't. In fact, I actually had a conversation with a doctor one time who told me point blank, he's like, you actually might know more about medicine than I do because you're such a data person. You could dig in and find all these correlations. He's like, I'm not familiar with math as well as you are. And I was kind of laughing like, no, I would hardly say that about myself. But I could find a lot of correlations. Yeah, that's true. So my point is that we don't need to go after doctors because there's no way to know a lot of these things ahead of time. They're basing it on their experience, they're basing it on some of their knowledge, but they're not going to know everything. And getting mad at them, that's not the solution to the problem, and that cultural attitude is going to lead to fewer doctors. So these are some of the solutions. The way the media will highlight it, and we'll go over this in the Cheryl Atkinson video, is bottom line is they'll just describe these things as controversial, which is not true, but they'll describe them as controversial so that you'll stop looking to them as solutions.